Hi, I'm Andy Stevens and this is the Home Building and Renovating Guides to buying an Orbital sander. An Orbital sander is pretty much what it says on the tin. It sands stuff and it goes round. So this one here, for example, has got a spinning disc on the bottom, sandpaper, and it spins around to give you that sort of sanding facility on most types of wood. So the main things you'd use an Orbital sander for, well, decorators will use it on walls. So if the plastering's a bit shabby, if the filling's not great, depending on what grit sandpaper, they will use that to get the wall ready to paint. Secondly, between coats, very high number grit will give you a lovely finish. So decorators will use that. It can also be used to get wood down to a really nice level. If you're putting a worktop in and it's a bit rough, or you put a joint in as a discrepancy by ½ mil, this is perfect for that. And the other thing, if you want to paint an old, such as this house, which is 1920s, you might want to take paint off, probably 6-7 layers of old gloss. This is great for that. So the higher the grit, you can strip the old paint off, take it back to wood, ready for your primer and undercoat. So 3 main things this sander will do. The main thing I wouldn't use the Orbital sander for is if you're doing large surface areas of wood. The belt sand, you've got a lot more sandpaper, which covers a bigger area, so therefore it's a lot quicker. This thing, despite what some people try and use it for, it doesn't cut stuff. You're not going to polish up concrete with it or a screed. It's purely for wood and also types of filler and plaster. When you look to buying one of these, pretty much all of them have got it these days, but it's the dust extraction. Now, you've got different types of filters. You can also connect a hose onto an extraction unit. I think the main thing is because it can be really, really fine dust, you don't want to breathe that in. So make sure you've got a good filter system or an extraction point where you can connect a hose into it. Again, you've got corded against cordless. This one's corded. It does exactly what I need it to do, but you can go cordless. So again, if you do, 2 batteries, 1 charger, because if you're using it all day, you may not get the whole day out of 1 battery. Sandpaper wise, they're very easy. It's stick on, stick off. It's a Velcro system. You can get ones which don't have these holes, which obviously are there for a reason. I've found, despite what people say, I've found them, they clog up. And when they clog up, it's very difficult to get this to stick because the Velcro gets that fine dust in it. Personally, I'll go with the one with the holes in. Another point to look out for is if you've got some sort of handle to actually guide it on the surface that you're sanding back. A lot of them don't. This one isn't expensive. I think it was 60 quid. But with this, you can actually guide it a lot better rather than just having something like this where you've just literally got your palm on it. Now, being a trade, I had to be realistic with this. Am I going to use it all the time? The answer is no. I didn't need to spend serious money on it. Your top end, there's a Festool one at best part of 500 quid. If you're a joiner or you're working with wood all the time and you want to get that perfect finish, yes, you need it. This one is what I would call one of the sort of budget entries. I think all in, and I got a case, obviously the filter system, all of that was 60 quid including VAT, which I don't think is bad. This will do a job for me, being a trade. You can get them as cheap as 20 quid. I think McAllister's one that I saw for just under 20 quid. And then you can go up to the cordless ones, the more sort of mid-range, your Bosch, DeWalt, Makita, Milwaukee, Metabo. But to be fair, I think 50, 60 quid, you've got a good machine. Unless you're on it all day, every day, that is all you need to spend. This is a good bit of kit. Big difference between spending money on this as an entry level all the way up to your sort of superior brands is the robustness of it. Now, there's a lot of people say that these can produce faults. Now, don't forget, if you're pressing, especially if you've got a guide here, if you're pressing hard on a bit of wood, it can slow down the Orbital sander, which can cause problems with the motor. They can burn out. Again, like anything in life, the more money you spend, the better it is. Accessory-wise, when buying an Orbital sander, clearly sandpaper, it's measured in grit, so that's anything from fine to coarse. The higher the number of grit, the finer the finish. So 240 plus is very, very fine. And then the lower number, the 40s and 60s, is really, really coarse if you want to get that old paint off a skirting board or a door. And it's a lot more coarse, so it will give you a lot rougher finish. So usually start with a low grit, work yourself up to high grit. This is the other thing. Please, please be careful with this. The dust is so fine, you don't want it coating your lungs. So make sure it's got a good filter system or a connection that you put an extraction hose into. You don't want this dust in your lungs. With this fine dust, it can get clogged up internally. I would recommend trying to get something which blasts air just to give it a quick clean. The filters should be changed regularly to make sure they're working. If you've got an extraction point where the hose goes on to an extraction unit, make sure that doesn't get clogged up, just give it a clean. But with the fine dust, probably spend a bit more attention on the maintenance of this compared with something like a combi drill or angle grinder. So there we are, a comprehensive guide to buying an Orbital sander. For more advice on tools, materials, techniques and products for building, visit homebuilding.co.uk.